estate company Zillow Group made some pretty big news this week after the company announced that they're pausing Zillow offers for the rest of the year. Zillow Offers is their program that allows homeowners to sell their homes without having to fix them up, because normally Zillow would take care of those projects and then list the home for sale. But because of the current shortage on labor and materials, Zillow is struggling to keep up as they cannot close, renovate, and sell the house fast enough. Join me now, co-founder and chief strategist at GDP Advisors, Seth Denson. Seth, thank you so much for joining me. So Seth, I guess I'm not surprised that they put a pause on this. I mean, if you look around, if you talk to people who are buying homes and trying to fix things up, there's a big shortage on materials. It's hard to find workers. So I would imagine it would be hard for them to make a profit right now.
Well, I think that's part of it. But the other part of it, I think, too, is that Zillow may have overextended themselves, right? I mean, their stock price was up in the early days of the pandemic over 700%. Now it's come back down off that, but it's still up over 300% that before where it was under pre-pandemic levels. And I think that's because Zillow makes money in one of two areas. Their main area of making money is through data collection, right? Every time you go on and you search, they're collecting data on you. What are you searching for? What's your price point? Where are you trying to search? And they sell that data. The other piece, though, is their portfolio. And if they've overextended that portfolio and made too many deals, mind you, they actually gotten a lot of heat recently because they manipulate the market. They will actually go in and inflate neighborhoods. They'll keep certain listings up longer than they were actually available. And I think all of that is playing into Zillow maybe taking a step back and saying, let's get back to our core business, which is data selling. There's no expense in that, but there's absolutely expense if you get over leveraged owning real estate. We learned that in 2008.
Yeah, I guess this is an interesting announcement given everything that you just said. We've talked about it on the show. So I'm wondering if it was like a PR black eye for them as well. And then now we saw that their stocks that dipped about 11%. So that's not good for them either. But you're so right. A lot of their business is just selling our personal information. And I mean, if you're not paying for it, you're probably the product. And a lot of people didn't even really realize that. And it is very profitable for Zillow.
Yeah, if you're giving anybody information online for free, you're the currency. I tell people that all the time. You're what they're trying to gain. And from a data collection perspective, and it's not just Zillow. There's literally dozens of companies, hundreds of companies, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all these companies out there, right? If they're collecting that data, that's high margin opportunity for them, because again, unlike buying a house where you have to flip it, you have to repair it, you have to work through materials and labor and all that, data's available and it's free, and they can bundle that up and sell it, and there's massive margin in it. Again, I think Zillow's just going back to their core competency and saying, hey, let's go with what we do best.
Yeah, and then I guess I was kind of surprised to hear this. Apparently home builders do remain optimistic despite the ongoing supply chain problems. Why is that?
Well, I think they're optimistic in a couple of key areas. First of all, you've got a lot of people wanting to get in homes. You still, because of COVID, have a lot of people leaving the big cities looking for that suburban life, and we're seeing suburban expansion magnified. So I think it's still a seller's market, and obviously home builders are building them to sell them. Now, one thing that it is interesting, though, is watching the median prices of what home builders are actually looking to build now. So they're getting away from maybe these McMansions, and they're looking at more in that price point that is a starter home, because they know they can still inflate those prices and make it effective to sell and flip and get through it. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over the year to come as things start to taper off after, we get things reopened, hopefully, knock on wood. But interestingly enough, that is the market that you're seeing really expand, is that starter home basis.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, we're still dealing with a worker shortage in this country, so much so it's affecting all industries. It's affecting Amazon. Apparently, they're trying to hire 150,000 seasonal workers for the holidays, and they're offering a lot of extra bonuses, but I don't know if that's going to be enough to recruit the amount of people that they need.
Well, listen, labor shortage is something we're all dealing with. Every company's dealing with. Every company that I know of is willing to, offer higher wages, better hours, flex hours, even in some cases, massive bonuses. Amazon, I think, has announced they're offering up to a $3,000 bonus if you stay through the holiday season. My question, though, is, maybe not at that level, but other companies like Walmart, Target, Costco, all these companies that try to staff up during the holiday season, they're doing the same thing, and they're going to get creative. We have a limited labor supply, not because they're not out there. there. We just can't get them to work, and everybody's going to compete over those jobs. So it'll be interesting to see how that's going to impact holiday shopping, supply. We already know about the supply crisis that we have in the United States. Is this just going to further compound that? It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and then their starting pay is $18 an hour. It's a lot of money. And you think of like the mom and pop shops that are going to be trying to compete with Amazon during the holiday season, and it's going to be difficult, I think, for a lot of the mom and pop shops to be paying $18 an hour and or being able to give people some sort of bonus. I mean, $3,000 bonus, that's a lot.
It is. And listen, mom and pops have been taking it on the chin throughout this entire pandemic, right? They were shut down while Amazon, Walmart, Target, all these other companies were essential and able to stay open. And so they were able to see their profits boost and get a lot of cash while these other companies really struggled. So now this is a second round or maybe even a fourth or fifth round actually to these small business owners. And again, a lot of them are trying to hire seasonal workers, but the reality is they can't get full-time workers. So this is just a compounding problem that until we get the labor force in America back to work, I think it's going to be across all sectors a challenge.
Yeah, and then with all of these issues that we've talked about, there are some people out there that say that America is already in a recession as bad as 2008. Would you agree with this assessment?
I don't know that we're in a recession yet, but we're certainly headed that direction if we don't turn things around. I mean, if you look just at the data numbers, all of the past recessions since 1980, and really there's only been a couple, but they had very specific data points, and we've exceeded those. Unlike 2008, where we had you had plenty of labor but not enough money, it's the opposite side here, which is actually exacerbating the problem. This actually looks more like what we saw in the 1970s when we saw stagflation. And so I think that's the big concern. This is really the key point, though, Stephanie. We've got to get people back to work. The American worker is the livelihood of our economic system. We got to get them back to work. And until that happens, as long as the Fed continues their monetary policy of flooding the market with cash, you have all of this issue that is ultimately going to lead to a recession if we don't fix the problem. Right now, we need a correction, but a correction not solved will lead to a recession.
Yeah, no, there's definitely something eerie going on. I mean, when you go to the stores, empty shelves and all of the help wanted signs everywhere, it's definitely very eerie, that's for sure. So hopefully, these people who are suggesting that we are already in a 2008-like recession, I hope they're wrong. Obviously, you have a different opinion. Well, Seth, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Steph.